So, what if our planet is developing a mind? Not, a physical brain, but a global layer of interconnected thought. That's the huge, challenging idea at the very heart of Leo Gerard Fernandez's book, The Noosphere. It suggests that a kind of planetary consciousness is awakening right now through us and the technologies we've built.
This idea, it actually has really deep roots. Decades before we even had the internet, the philosopher Pierre Teilhard de Chardin imagined the Earth covering itself in a thinking layer. He saw this future where all of humanity would form a single, organized membrane of intelligence. What was once a philosophical dream, the book argues, is fast becoming our reality.
So, what is the noosphere, really? Well, the book defines it pretty simply. It's the thinking layer of our planet. It's this new reality that's born from the combination of the physical world, matter, and our collective web of information, ideas, and communication, our meaning. It's like the planet itself is learning to think as one.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we're going to follow the book's structure. First, we'll look at where this idea even came from. Then, we'll dive into the crisis it creates, having all this power without the wisdom to actually use it. We'll explore our wild relationship with AI, the hidden energy costs of this whole thinking planet, and we'll ask if a true planetary mind is emerging. And finally, we'll see how this all becomes a profound test for all of us.
So let's start at the beginning. The concept of the noosphere wasn't born in the age of Silicon Valley. Nope, it actually goes way back to the 1920s with two different thinkers who came to the same incredible idea from completely different worlds.
On one side, you've got Vladimir Vernadsky, a Russian geochemist. He looked at human thought as a new geological force, something that was physically changing the Earth's chemistry, just like the rise of life did billions of years ago. Then, on the other side, you have Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, the French Jesuit we just heard from. He saw it from a more spiritual perspective. Evolution as this grand story of consciousness on the rise, with humanity forming a collective awareness. Two totally different paths, one stunning conclusion.
The book connects this history to a modern scientific idea, planetary intelligence. This is that moment when a civilization's collective knowledge gets so tangled up with the planet's own systems, its climate, its oceans, its chemistry, that you can't separate the two anymore. And here's the key shift. Intelligence is no longer something happening on the planet, it's something happening to the planet. That's a huge difference.
And this leads us straight to the core problem the book identifies. We've developed this incredible planetary intelligence, but we haven't grown the maturity to handle it. The book calls it a developmental crisis, kind of like an adolescent who's suddenly been given immense power, but has no judgment or foresight to go with it. To really get this crisis, the book compares the old model of Earth, which we often call Gaia, with our new reality. Gaia is like a planet on autopilot. It blindly self-regulates through unconscious feedback loops, keeping things in balance without any foresight. But planetary intelligence is totally different. It's self-aware. We don't just react anymore. We model the future. We try to anticipate what's coming, and we intervene on purpose. We are now consciously shaping the planet, for better or for worse. And this creates a really powerful and dangerous mismatch. Our technological power is now planetary. We can alter the entire climate. But our moral frameworks, our ethics, they're still local. They evolved for the scale of tribes and nations. We're wielding planetary power with pre-planetary ethics. And the book argues that this gap, right there, is the central crisis of our time. This is exactly why the noosphere is so dangerous. Fernandez says this global network of thought isn't a moral agent. It doesn't have its own values. It's simply an immoral amplifier, a giant megaphone. If we pour fear and division and short-term greed into it, it's just going to blast that out on a global scale. But if we can learn to feed it with cooperation and foresight, it can amplify those too.
This forces us to face the book's most critical question. What is the difference between intelligence and wisdom? See, intelligence is about efficiency, about knowing how to do something, how to build a bigger network, how to get more resources. But wisdom asks, should we? It's about restraint and foresight and understanding which goals are even worth chasing. Humanity has become incredibly intelligent, but the test of the noosphere is whether we can finally become wise. This whole challenge of wisdom gets even more intense, even more urgent with the arrival of AI. The book calls our relationship with artificial intelligence the great coupling, because we're not just using tools anymore. We have entered a new era where we are fundamentally co-evolving with a new kind of non-human mind.
This coevolution happens through a really powerful feedback loop. It starts with us. We create the data, and we tell the AI what to aim for. The AI then crunches that data at a massive scale, finds patterns, and its outputs, our search results, our news feeds, our recommendations, they start to change how we think and how we act. And the more we rely on it, the tighter this loop gets, with each side constantly reshaping the other.
The danger in this loop comes from another huge mismatch. AI has incredible intelligence, but it has zero lived experience. It doesn't know what it feels like to suffer, or to have a body, or to be part of an ecosystem. This means it can chase a goal with brutal efficiency without caring at all about the consequences. It can influence billions of people without any accountability for that influence.
So, the book argues this leaves us at a major crossroads with two possible futures. One path is symbiosis, a real partnership where we carefully align AI's goals with our own long-term values. The other path is capture, a future where our own judgment just fades away and we become servants to the goals of an algorithm we don't even control anymore, optimizing for simple things like engagement at the expense of everything that actually matters.
Now, this whole idea of a planetary mind, this great coupling with AI, it all feels very abstract, right? Like it's all just happening in a cloud somewhere. But the book's next section brings it crashing right back down to earth. It forces us to look at the immense and often hidden physical cost of running a thinking planet.
The noosphere doesn't just float in the air. It runs on a vast physical infrastructure the book calls the technosphere. I mean, think of it as the planet's nervous system. Millions of miles of undersea cables, data centers the size of cities, constellations of satellites, and the enormous mining operations and energy grids that power it all. Every single search, every video stream, every thought we share has a physical weight to it.
And this is where we find a really deep contradiction. The book says it perfectly. A thinking planet is sustained by an unthinking energy regime. Our growing planetary awareness, our ability to model climate change and ecological collapse, is being powered almost entirely by the very fossil fuel systems that are causing the problem. We're becoming aware of the fire while pouring gasoline on it.
The book works really hard to shatter this myth that our digital world is somehow clean or weightless. It is not. Training just one large AI model can use as much energy as a small town. Data centers need incredible amounts of electricity and water just to stay cool. And the whole system depends on mining rare earth minerals. The digital world is deeply, physically, and energetically demanding. So, given all these layers, the history, the power, the AI, the energy cost, the book then asks its most speculative and fascinating question. Are all these fragmented pieces starting to integrate? Is something like a coherent planetary mind actually emerging from all this chaos? The key concept here is emergence. Think about how a colony of ants can act like a single organism, even though no single ant is in charge. No one is designing a global brain. The book's idea is that when a system has enough interconnected parts, like our global networks do, a new, higher level of organization can just arise on its own. But this emergence is not a guarantee. The book frames our current moment as a race. On one side, you have the forces of integration, a growing awareness of shared global problems like climate change. But on the other side, you have powerful forces of disintegration, political polarization, misinformation, social fragmentation, often made worse by the very same technologies. The big question is, which one is winning? This brings us to the book's final, powerful argument. The noosphere, this emerging thinking planet, it isn't some technological destiny that's just happening to us. It is fundamentally a moral test for our species. The real challenge isn't technical, it's ethical. The book's central claim here is that our old ethical systems just aren't built for this new reality. They were mostly human-centered, focused on individual rights, and designed for a world where the consequences of our actions were local and usually reversible. A planetary ethics has to be different. It has to be life-centered, focused on our responsibilities to the whole system, and ready to deal with systemic, irreversible harms. So the crucial point is this: developing qualities like restraint, foresight, and a deep sense of care for the whole planet is no longer some fuzzy, idealistic dream. In an age of planetary power, it has become a practical, necessary survival strategy. Intelligence got us here, but only moral evolution can make sure we have a future. And so the book leaves us with this final, profound question. Our entire evolutionary history has favored competition and expansion, but now our survival depends on the exact opposite, on cooperation, on self-limitation, on restraint. Can a species that evolved through competition learn to govern itself through restraint? The fate of the noosphere and of the thinking planet itself really hangs on the answer to that question.